We are a river city, a bold city, the First Coast, a place to create and to belong. Here, the sun shines a little brighter, and so do the people. We share a love for our region, a pride for Jacks, and a passion for the beautiful game, dedicated to giving everyone a sporting chance. Together, we will elevate soccer and sport in our community by lifting every voice. We are Sporting Club Jacksonville. We are Sporting Jacks.
Hello and welcome into the Sporting Jacks Report along with Mauricio Ruiz. I'm Cole Pepper. Coming up, some big offseason moves in the USL Championship and midseason moves in the USL Super League. Plus a surging girls high school soccer team that just earned some hardware. But let's start with the U.S. men's national team as they prepare for their return to the pitch for a pair of friendlies here in the Sunshine State. Later today, the U.S. faces Venezuela in Fort Lauderdale, followed by a meeting with Costa Rica in Orlando on Wednesday. With a countdown to the World Cup, every opportunity for Mauricio Pochettino to get some time on the pitch with his players is valuable. Now, what do you want to see from the U.S. men's national team as they take on Venezuela today?
You know, I like to say that I want to see growth in the way that they approach the game, their philosophy, their style, the game motto. However, these are brand new players. This is a kind of it's a domestic cap, and a lot of these have been called in for the first time. So it's the first time that they're actually kind of getting into it. See Team Marine there, see a veteran playing in MLS now. So what I want to see are new players. Who are new discovery players? If we're not going to have a futures camp, who are new players that we should be looking at in the next couple of years?
So many of these players we're showing you pictures of right now are guys who are playing overseas in Europe right now, so they are not coming back for this. This is not a FIFA international break, but it is an opportunity in the United States for Mauricio Pochettino to get a close look at some of these players who may be able to provide some depth. Will he be able to find somebody who's going to provide, actual contributions in the World Cup cycle just a little over a year away?
Well, I think that's what he's looking for, and it's good competition. Venezuela has been one of the upcoming teams in the CONMEBOL in South America. Costa Rica, we know it's a rival. They're always going to come in here and challenge us. So, you play competitions like this with young players to see how they rise to the top, and it'd be interesting to see whose stocks go up and whose stocks are kind of like in between. Zach Stephens being one of them, because we do have a deficit in our goalkeeper core. Is he a player that comes out a positive out of this camp?
I thought it was very interesting, too, when you look at the roster. A lot of inexperience in the midfield this time around. Maybe some guys who either haven't been given the chance or who have improved to the point where they deserve a chance to get a look now, who may be able to provide some of that depth we talk about over the next year and a half.
Well, absolutely, and I think that's why this camp is so important for those French players. Most of our male players are playing overseas. So domestic, MLS, USL, whoever they might be, or young players, typically don't get a chance to get into those call-ups. The MLS League doesn't line up with FIFA dates. So this is one of the best opportunity. They just finished MLS season last year. Where any of these players, they'll be up and coming, have an opportunity to break into that core, which would be a World Cup cycle.
It'll be very interesting. We'll be keeping an eye on that. After this month's friendlies, the men's national team will not be back on the field together until they face Panama in the CONCACAF Nations League semifinals on March the 20th. Let's start now with a move for one of the best goal scorers in the USL Championship that's going on. Some of the moves here in the offseason in the USL Championship. Louisville's Wilson Harris has been transferred to the Israeli Premier League. He's 25 years old, scored 43 goals over the past 3 seasons. What does this move mean, Mal, for Wilson and the league?
Well, for Wilson being 25 years old, this is a money grab opportunity for him. And I don't say that in a negative way. At 25, if you haven't been called into the national team yet, if you haven't been called into the MLS or bigger leagues internationally, it's an opportunity for him as a professional to make the most amount of money that he can. For the league, it means that this league is being viewed at and being scouted at as a big league around the world.
All right. Also, coaching change. You see there's the pen to paper for Antonio Nocerino, the former Miami manager, taking over the Las Vegas Lights. The 39-year-old struggled with Miami, winning just 3 games and 32 chances. And congratulations to Caleb Patterson-Sewell, who's been hired as the sporting director and general manager at Tulsa FC. The former Jacksonville Armada goalkeeper was in Memphis last year before the club ceased operations. This is a good move for Tulsa.
It's a great move for Tulsa. He did a fantastic job building a great roster at Memphis FC, Memphis 901. Now that they ceased operations, he transferred those talents over to Tulsa.
All right, we will have another 3 weeks until the USL Super League season resumes after the midseason break, and we're starting to see some moves made, especially involving the Tampa Bay Sun. Let's start with a veteran addition there. Tampa Bay adding Parker Goins to the roster. The 26-year-old forward played the last 3 seasons with Racing Louisville in the NWSL. She also has experience with the U.S. U18 national team, scored 29 goals at Arkansas. She became a free agent at the end of the NWSL season. Tampa Bay has also signed former Nebraska star Jordan Zaid. The defender had 4 assists from the back line in 12 games with the Huskers and signed straight from college to the pros. Finally, a departure from the Tampa Bay roster as well to tell you about. Riley Parker is heading to the Carolina Ascent. The former Alabama standout started 6 of 10 matches this fall for Tampa Bay. She recorded 9 shots but did not score for the Sun. So that's an interleague move. Mauricio, these 3 transactions are all a little bit different, and we're still watching to see how the teams will utilize this intermediate time off to bolster their rosters.
Well, and the biggest change from last year to this year is that the NWSL does not have a draft. So a lot of these players, you talked about players going directly from college into the Super League. Well, it's because there's no more draft. So there's an opportunity to really for them to go where the best opportunity is rather than where they get selected without their choice. So that's an interesting move, and I think we'll see more here in the month of January. And that interleague move, that's the first interleague change or trade, however you call it, that's happened within the Super League. So really interesting.
Yeah, really intriguing to see how some of the nuts and bolts will be worked out here as the Super League continues its inaugural season. It's time now for Mauricio's Corner, and since we're just weeks away from the USL Championship and League One teams reporting to training camps, thought we might take this time to take a closer look at the way League One, the next division down from the championship, are operating. And now, this is a good level of soccer in a growing league.
It's a great level of soccer. It's getting better. This is probably where a lot of the college players transition to get minutes. A lot of the top players will go into the USL Championship and maybe in MLS. But this is a league for players that need to get time. And you see how the landscape and how it's grown with 14 teams going into this year.
Yeah, 14 teams, as you can see, most of them in the Eastern time zone, but also in the Central and Pacific time zones as well. 14 teams, player movement from League One into the championship is an interesting thing as these teams, it's not a development situation per se. They're still competing for a championship. They're competing with USL Championship teams and will in the Jägermeister Cup. But this is also an opportunity for some of these players to take that next step.
It's a great opportunity for them to take the step because it's a league that's more similar, once again, to the college level league. It's really of the all-stars and players that maybe are towards the back end of their professional career to come down and serve as mentors. The league itself has to continue to develop. As you mentioned, looking at the map, it's really light on the West Coast. So how many teams can kind of come into the central region on the West Coast to eliminate traffic, create more opportunities for those young developing players that need playing time? At this age, when they're between 18 to 24, they need to play. They need minutes on the field. And a league like League One allows for that. And then Championship League can now go and recruit and scout players from that league that are proven pros, learn how to be a pro, and then eventually make them move. And we saw that a lot this year.
There's also been some conjecture about what could happen, down the road in terms of a potential USL Premier League with the Championship and League One participating in possible promotion and relegation in the future. Mal, what about that, and how does League One fit into that as far as that environment?
Well, I think that's crucial. We talked about the increase of popularity of the league and making sure that it's a countrywide league, not just an East Coast league. So then it allows teams to kind of have the best version of promotion and relegation, which is really to move. Look at Lexington this year, North Carolina FC last year. If you come in League One, maybe a lower pay-in to get into the league, develop well, develop your landscape, develop your stadium, then move to the championship, and then eventually potentially into that Premier League as we're talking about. So now you have a robust USL landscape of League One, Championship, and eventually a Premier League.
Quite a few teams and different markets have USL League One futures waiting to be developed. We'll see how that plays out over the course of the next several years. Hey, come join Sporting Jacks at the Riverside Craft Beer Festival, Sunday, February 23rd, under the Fuller Warren Bridge. More than 100 local and national craft beers, food trucks, a cornhole tournament, and live music. The festival opens for general admission at 1 p.m. with VIP starting at noon. For tickets, go to riversidecraftbeerfestival.com. The festival benefits Community Peds Care and the Riverside Rotary Foundation and is presented by the Nevisor Foundation. Season tickets are now on sale for USL Super League Sporting Jacks debut. Here's a look at the seating map. You can see how things will shake out at Hodges Stadium on the UNF campus. Tickets start at $10 per game for students and go up to the field seats and premium hospitality. Join the movement and be a part of the first professional women's team in Jacksonville. Go to sportingjacks.com for more information. Still to come, Becky Burley joins us to discuss more about how USL Super League teams are operating in the break and what that means for Sporting Jacks in the future. That's next as the Sporting Jacks Report rolls on. When the USL Super League kicks off the second half of the season in February, you can catch every game all season long streaming on Peacock. Here's a look at the USL Super League standings at the winter break. You can see that every team except for the two Florida teams have played 14 matches. That's because Fort Lauderdale and Tampa Bay had a game canceled through the hurricane. So they'll make that up as the first game of the second half, in essence, February 8th. And then the rest of the league will come in after that. Brooklyn in good shape at 29 points, 6 points clear of Dallas to start the second half, with Carolina and Fort Lauderdale right now on the inside track for those top four spots. Remember, the top four teams advance to the playoffs in the USL Super League. We now welcome in Becky Burley, who joins us each and every week. Becky, the United States women's national team had to move their training from California to Florida because of the wildfires out in the LA area. What kind of an impact is that going to have on the team and the coaches?
I hope it doesn't have a ton of impact on the team and the coaches. I would not want to be an operations person for that camp. But I think that, the weather is going to be a little crazy this week everywhere, but maybe Florida escapes that. And so hopefully that plays in their favor.
Hey, Becky, we have Avery Patterson from the Houston Dash, she's a Jacksonville native. She's also being called into the U.S. national team camp. What kind of experience is that going to be for someone like Patterson?
Man, I'm so excited about Avery getting called in because I have watched her. I saw her in college a ton, but then I've watched her in the pro league too. And, this is a player who's really made an impact as an early pro. And so for her to get in there and play against the best of the best, the only thing that can do is elevate your game. So I'm pretty fired up for her, and I think it's going to really take her to the next level.
It'd be great to follow her trajectory as it continues. We've begun to see some NWSL players signed in the USL Super League. For example, we talked about Parker Gowen signed by Tampa Bay. This is something we've expected to start happening. How many more of these signings are you expecting here in the intermediate area?
Well, first of all, I'm real familiar with Parker. She had a great career at Arkansas, and I think that's a great signing by Tampa Bay. I do think it's going to happen more and more. I keep kind of track of the NWSL free agents at this point. They're getting close to finalizing rosters for their upcoming year, and there's still a good number of players that have significant experience that are unsigned at this point. And so I wonder if there's some of those that are in the works to make the move to some USL teams.
Yeah, we've been talking about this mid-season break that the Super League has, and how teams are going to handle being in that break. Are you surprised that we haven't seen more movement around the league?
The only thing that doesn't surprise me about that is the guaranteed contract piece, which I think is a real bonus for players to be in a guaranteed contract situation. That does make it more difficult for clubs to make moves. But I think that as this evolves, we may see more moves than we do right now.
And these are all things we've kind of been following very closely since the league announced the structure of the season. So with all these teams that are playing right now, they're going through the mechanics of it. What lessons should Sporting Jacks be taking from watching what's happening during this first break?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think there's so many lessons probably. When you're roster building for the first time, which all of those teams did this year, the challenge is, it's not like you're trying to fit in a few pieces here and there. You are putting together a roster from scratch. And there's bound to be, misses, hits, things that looked great on paper, but maybe aren't the best fit. And so I think it's just kind of seeing as they trend this out, as the season progresses, where those hits and misses lie and what can we take from that.
Yeah, got to learn as you go. The old saying is hire slow, fire fast. If you realize it's not the right fit, make a move and move on. Becky, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds great.
Becky Burley joining us each and every week. And if you sign up for season tickets now for the USL Super League season, you'll receive a limited edition inaugural season scarf. Be part of the first pro women's team in Jacksonville. Just go to sportingjacks.com or click that QR code you see on your screen there, and you'll be taken to the website to get the very latest on tickets for Sporting Jack's debut in the USL Super League in August. Still to come, our youth soccer spotlight. We take a closer look at the Fletcher girls team who won the Gateway Championship. They're now looking for more. That's straight ahead right here on the Sporting Jacks Report. In the coming months, Sporting Jacks will be unveiling the inaugural kit. You can already get your official Sporting Jacks merchandise, from shirts and hats to sweatshirts and scarves. Head to sportingjacks.com or use that QR code on your screen to get your official club gear today. Time now for the Youth Soccer Spotlight presented by the Bearded Pig Barbecue. And this week we're getting to know the Fletcher girls soccer team. The Senators just won the Gateway Conference Tournament, defeating Stanton in a bit of a revenge game from last season. There's an interesting approach being taken at the beach where Fletcher has co-head coaches. Both Lauren Chase and Philip Dansell are listed as head coaches for the team. Each brings a little something different to the table. Dansell's a club coach at JFC, brings a lot of experience. His daughter Sienna is a junior who leads the team in assists. It's not always easy to have two different leaders on a team, but they're making it work at Fletcher.
He has 15, 20 years coaching club and high school in the area. He was also a college player. So just having him around has been a really great transition. Just to have that second voice and just to, really coaching high school soccer, I've said this before, it is a team effort. It really takes two people to do it well.
It's like a dad's dream come true is to coach your kid. So being out here, it's very blessed. I've actually known most of these kids just from them playing soccer together growing up. So, getting to know them a little more, because a lot of them hang out at my house on the weekends. So, just being out here, and being successful this year just is a proud dad moment, just not only as a father, but as a father figure for them.
So last season we would have good outcomes in a lot of the games, but we always knew that our potential was more than we ever showed. We just had a really big issue with scoring goals and just never seemed to get the product we wanted. But this year we've really come and we just all show up to practice and really work on scoring goals, which has always been an issue on this team. So we've finally been able to get that down, and every game there's a new person scoring, so it's just really exciting for everyone.
Communication. We've worked on the defense a lot, and I think it's gotten so much better through the season. And yeah, communication, coverage is one of the biggest things that I think we've gotten so much better with.
I think a big thing for us is we definitely needed to lose a couple games before we could start growing. We needed to face failure in order to contribute to a win. And I think that really helped us, experiencing that and then growing off of it.
I think we can go very far as long as we just stay as a family and just communicate with each other and just keep working every day and put in all the effort we can.
One of the real keys for the Senators' success this year is on the defensive side. They've recorded 7 clean sheets and conceded more than 2 goals only once. The only 2 losses this year have come to powerhouse teams, Bartram Trail and St. John's Country Day. So there's something about that beach community, Mauricio, that really kind of sets itself apart.
It really does. And, you talked about, you started the piece with 2 head coaches, a co-head coach. He's a little bit unorthodox, but he does take a village. And it's great to see that coaches are able to find kind of what their strengths are and support each other. And you can see, I'm just always impressed with young people and how they express themselves. For you to think that the 2 losses were actually positive, they need to overcome that adversity. It's really wise and beyond our years.
Yeah, it really is. And a bunch, again, as we've seen with a lot of the successful teams, a lot of these players have grown up playing with one another, either in school or in club situations. A lot of those seniors looking forward to trying to repeat what happened a couple of years ago at Fletcher when they won a state championship. It's a lot more to go in terms of the districts and moving on, but it's a team to be watching as the postseason approaches. All right, be sure to join us every Tuesday night at 6 on 1010XL for the Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour. That's on the AM side, 1010 AM. You can also listen online or on demand at 1010XL.com. Still to come, we look ahead to the Premier League's action over the week. That's next as the Sporting Jacks Report rolls on. You can can watch the Sporting Jacks Report every Saturday before the start of Premier League broadcasts on NBC 12. You can also find us on demand on First Coast News Plus and the Sporting Jacks YouTube channel. Speaking of the Premier League, the teams got back to work in their fixtures during the week last week. Arsenal sits in second right now, just ahead of Nottingham Forest on goal differential. Arsenal has not won the Premier League in 20 years. Today they'll host Aston Villa. Now, what's it going to take for Arsenal to end this 20-year drought?
Consistency, and they have to finish strong. I think the last couple of years they've gone to the top. They've challenged Man City, they've challenged Liverpool, and they're right there. And oftentimes they led at the end, but then they fell through and they didn't finish strong. So can they finish? Can they stay healthy? And can they finish strong? That'll be the difference for them.
Interesting that today's matchup involves two teams that are also playing in the Champions League from the Premier League. So roster management is going a long way for both of these squads.
When I think you see the way Aston Villa has proposed their roster, how they managed it, they've actually focused a lot into the Champions League, where Arsenal wants to win the league. I think it's important for them to win the league.
Interesting schedule tomorrow that Arsenal will probably not be as concerned with, but tomorrow's games, we've got Everton and Spurs, so that's a team at the bottom of the table, a team kind of in the mid-table. Forest against Southampton, so the team at the bottom of the table taking on a team in third right now, and Ipswich and Man City. Again, that'll be a respite probably for Man City. But the interesting game tomorrow morning, Man U and Brighton playing at Old Trafford, that's one to watch as well.
It's one to watch because it's two teams that continue to try to find their identity. Brighton seems to have one, and they kind of come up and down, but they're doing well. They're hot. Man U is a team that's just all over the place. It's almost like it's a car crash that you can't look away. So it could be anything could happen. They beat Man City at the end of the game, and then they go and lose 4 in a row. They're an interesting team with a new coach, a new staff, what's happening with Rashford. So many storylines in there.
One of the other teams that I think deserves some recognition coming into this weekend, 5 straight wins for Newcastle. They were up to 4th in the table before this weekend's activities. That's a team that hasn't gotten a lot of conversation about them, but they are playing very well.
Yeah, how do you quietly win 5 in a row and you get to 4th place, right? But somehow the focus on Nottingham Forest and the Arsenal and the Man City kind of dropped. Somehow Newcastle just consistently kind of stayed out of the spotlight and just have gone to work, and they're healthy now. They're doing well. Isaac scoring a lot of goals. So, their team, they have the roster to compete at the top. Can they get there and challenge?
Yeah, 21, now 22 matches for some of these teams in the books out of 38. So we're more than halfway through the season. We're starting to really see those trends develop that we expected to from a lot of these teams. But those surprise stories like Nottingham Forest, like Newcastle, maybe on the other end, like Man U. We'll see how it plays out. Plenty more to come as the Premier League season continues. You can follow us on social media with Sporting Jacks on all the major social media platforms. For Mauricio Ruiz and Becky Burley, I'm Cole Pepper. Thanks for joining us right here on the Sporting Jacks Report. We'll see you next week.